After completing his journey, when the king returned to his palace, he found that his treasure was empty. This was a great surprise for the king because before starting the journey, his treasure was full, and he hadn't been gone for very long. So it was astonishing that so much money was spent in such a short amount of time. When the king asked his prime minister about the reason for this, he explained that the neighboring state's army had become ready to attack us, so we had to recruit new soldiers for security, and that was the reason for the increased expenditure. The king trusted his minister very much, so he believed his explanation and didn't investigate any further. The queen often warned the king that his prime minister was not a trustworthy person and could betray him. However, the king didn't listen to his queen's advice and started to think that his prime minister, Narendra Modi, was a good person. This made the queen jealous. One day, the king went out of his kingdom for a trip. In the darkness of the night, the king saw the prime minister of the neighboring state sneaking out with his face covered, hiding from theft. This was the same state whose prime minister had mentioned to the king that they were planning to attack us. When the king saw the minister of land donations, he directly asked his prime minister, "Minister, what are you doing here? You are sneaking out of our enemy state. What does that mean? Are you trying to deceive me? You are a traitor." The prime minister was completely shocked after seeing the king. Then he regained his composure and said to the king, "Your Majesty, this state was planning to attack us, and as the Minister of Intelligence, it is my duty to spy and find out when and how they will attack us. I was just fulfilling my duty, but unfortunately, you consider me a traitor. I have devoted my entire life to this state, but in return, I am being labeled as a traitor. My whole life has been ruthlessly taken away from me," said the minister, bursting into tears in front of the king. Upon seeing the minister crying, the king realized his mistake. He apologized to his minister and said, "Forgive me, Minister Anna. I doubted a loyal man like you. We are proud to have a minister like you in our state. But there was no need for you to put your life in danger to spy. We have soldiers who can do that for us. You mean a lot to our state. I value you, and that's why you should never have to spy again. You can choose new soldiers, new people for that. But you will have to stay in our state and govern it." After this incident, the king's trust in his minister grew even more. Now he sought his minister's opinion even in trivial matters. But after some time, a strange incident occurred. Suddenly, their neighboring state attacked their kingdom. They were not prepared for this, and as a result, the king lost the war and had to flee his kingdom. But the interesting thing was that he didn't run away anywhere as the prime minister. He stayed right there. When the king asked him to come along, he said to the king that, "Your Majesty, you should go. I will keep protecting you till my last breath. But I cannot leave my kingdom behind. But it is important for you to know that if you stay alive, you will be able to get your kingdom back." And saying this, the prime minister stopped in that same state, and the king rode his horse and ran towards the distant forest. Now the king started spending his time with beggars. One day the king found out that the king of that state had now become his prime minister. That means his prime minister had taken his place. He had taken control of that state. The king still couldn't understand that his kingdom was taken away from him by cheating. On the contrary, the king was filled with joy and enthusiasm. His prime minister has now regained his kingdom. He happily went to his mentor to tell him the news. She narrated the entire conversation of her prime minister to her guru from the beginning to the end. She told how her prime minister used to spy in the neighboring state so that his state could be safe, and how his queen was filled with jealousy towards his minister because he used to be close to him. After hearing the whole story, it didn't take the guru even a little time to understand. A guru is a guru after all, and can only be hidden by him. That's why he placed his hand on the king's shoulder and said that, Rajan, the thing I'm going to tell you after this, you will be very shocked. It will hurt you a lot because this is such a thing that after hearing it, even your world will lose faith. The man whom you consider loyal has betrayed you? Perhaps you may not believe me, but if you want, you can investigate it yourself. You can find out by sending someone whether the prime minister met with the king of your neighboring state or not. If my words turn out to be wrong, then I have no right to be a guru. But if my words turn out to be true, then I will give you the knowledge after which no one in the world can deceive you. No one can betray your trust. The king immediately sent his trusted soldier with a letter to the state and informed his prime minister about it. The letter stated that the king was very pleased with the service of his prime minister. As a reward for the work done by him in regaining this state, he will be given an appropriate reward. The king wants to return to his kingdom soon and take back his throne. As soon as the prime minister heard this, he became angry. He was sitting on the throne of the king himself. He filled with anger and told the soldier that his king is not allowed to enter this state. If he is seen anywhere in this state, he will have to wash his hands with his life. Go and tell your king. The soldier returned with this news to his king. When the king heard this, he believed that what his guru was telling him was completely true. That's why he went back to his guru and, with folded hands and tears in his eyes, the king said that his guru had lived his whole life in darkness. I didn't trust anyone because that man had already occupied a place in my heart. I didn't even realize that he was deceiving me. People tried to warn me, but I foolishly considered them my enemies. If only I had listened to my queen. If only I had verified what he said. If only I had, I wouldn't have had to see this day. But what's done is done. However, in the future, I must be mindful of what to be cautious of, so no one can deceive me, whether they trust me or not. The guru began to say to the king, trembling, that we only get deceived when we trust beyond our limits, and by trusting beyond our limits, we close our eyes and ears. We don't want to see the truth with our own eyes, nor do we want to hear it with our own ears. We start our day at 7 and complain to God. The guru continued to say that we can't change what happened to us, but we can be cautious and alert to the deceivers before they deceive us. There are some signs of a dishonest person. They use certain methods to prey on their victims. By recognizing these methods, one can avoid being deceived. Deception wants to establish its place in your heart in the market. It wants to maintain your trust in it. For this, it employs various tactics. First, to come close to you and create proximity, it shows that its enemies are the same as yours, or its goals are the same as yours. Overall, it wants to show you that its ideology is the same as yours so that intimacy can develop between you two. Then, slowly but surely, it employs certain moves to ensnare you within its circle of trust until you believe that it is the most trustworthy person you have ever met. For instance, it will do something for you that generally friends don't do for each other. It will seem strange to you. You will wonder how a person you've met only recently can do such a thing for you. Questions will arise in your mind, but you'll realize that a human can comprehend. This is worthy of trust. This person can become my friend. But remember, if someone appears to be too good to be true, there might be something wrong or some hidden agenda. If you have the question in your mind, how can a human be so powerful? No one has ever seen such excellence in the world. Until now, you should understand that there is some kind of flaw somewhere, and you should investigate it in your own way. Then, gradually, as your trust begins to fade away, he takes up your responsibilities on his shoulders. He will try to show you how much he cares for you, and then gradually, over time, he will not even take your advice or opinion into consideration for your work. And even if you catch him making a mistake someday, being deceitful and cunning, they won't oppose it. They will accept their mistake. They won't even argue with you. They won't try to show why they made that mistake. Their words are very sweet. They make a home in your heart. They will praise you instead of pointing out your weaknesses. And remember, a true friend is the one who doesn't count your weaknesses in front of you but instead praises you. They don't keep building bridges of praise in front of you while ignoring your weaknesses. The truth may be bitter, but it can improve you. Their words are so sweet that even if they betray you, and you find out, you still won't want to leave their side. If this is happening to you, understand that you are completely trapped in the clutches of a deceiver. You have to get out of it. They have betrayed you. What more proof do you need? Stop waiting for anything and leave them today. Don't trust them. Otherwise, in the future, they will betray you even more because they already know your weaknesses. They already know that you cannot leave them, and now they will completely dominate you. Concluding his remarks, the guru gave his final message to the king, assuring him that after experiencing true enlightenment, he would never be deceived again. Our emotions connect us to each other, and they blind us to reality. However, if we step back from our emotions and make impartial decisions, we will avoid falling into wrongdoing. Therefore, my friends, it is good to be emotionally attached to someone, but making decisions based on emotional attachment can harm us. People can make their own decisions without emotional attachment. The king paid his respects to the guru and said that he wished he had learned this lesson earlier so that he would not have betrayed his trust. However, some things come in due time. If I had known this earlier, I might not have valued these lessons. But today, these lessons have firmly settled in my mind, and I will always keep them in my thoughts for the future, so that no one can ever deceive me. After this, the king returned home. So, my friends, how did you like this story? Please let me know in the comments, and if you liked it, please subscribe to this channel. See you in the next story. Until then, take care.